Our species this week have long antennae, their bodies are covered with spines, and they're either hiding in rocks and reef crevasses or walking in plain sight.
And if you're lucky enough to find them, then you're in for the best dinners Florida Waters has to offer. We're talking about lobsters here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Florida Insider Fishing Report. We're getting deeper into July, which means it's every Floridian's favorite holiday coming up, lobster season. Right, Rick?
You're absolutely right, Bree. And I know a lot of people wait all year long for this particular season, you being one of them.
Me being one of them.
And also one of our first captains.
Yes.
This is her thing.
This is her thing, but we also have our friend from FWC here and his canine dog, Liberty, weighing in on the bug life. Look how cute she is. A little later, she's going to be showing us her lobster sniffing technique, which will be pretty neat. And you know what? Of course, Dave is at the CCA workbench. And Dave, we're back from ICAST, which means you'll also have plenty of Taco Marine new product toys to play with over there.
I will. And it's kind of hard to, come back behind the dog. The dog's a lot prettier than I am.
Well, he
so
speaks
cute.
the truth a little bit on that one.
Yes,
Just kidding, Dave. We love you. But the buzz is on, and next week, thousands of lobster hunters will be headed into the Yanmar ASV Keys region for their limits. So we have our very own Captain Sarah Stanzik joining us in the studio. Welcome,
Hi,
Sarah.
I'm back.
You're back for your favorite holiday.
This is my favorite episode, of course. It's my favorite thing to do in the water, my favorite pastime. That dog smelled me when I came in the room. I reek of, the dog was on it as soon as I walked in. So lobstering, again, is my favorite thing. So I take people on charters, we go snorkeling, free diving for them. And to me, that's the most fun way when we jump in the water and we snorkel. You can also use scuba equipment or go bully netting at night too. So there's several different options available to catch them. When we snorkel, I'll use a net and tickle stick and we catch them that way, but there's other tools like snares or just your bare hands if you're old school. I will say there's some technique to properly tickling a lobster out of its hole and netting it, so I have a few tricks that I will show you at the workbench in a little bit, but for now, check out these photos of me with some lobster. Surprise!
Oh, wow, surprise! Wow. There they are. That's a beautiful photo.
That is a cool picture.
That's a cool one. And a little bit of a lobster and swordfish combo, why not?
Wow.
The swordfish was hungry, okay?
Tell us about the offshore report, girl.
Blackfin tuna have been offshore on the humps. A lot of people, they kind of scoff at blackfins and they don't think that they're good to eat. But we caught a blackfin yesterday and had sushi from it and it was awesome. Blackfins are really good. It does make a big difference in the meat quality if you ice them right away and bleed them out. So definitely that helps to make the quality better for the meat. We use live pilchards, so cigar minnows are popular for baits, but you can also use vertical jigs or poppers. A Penn 65 to 7500 with 30 to 40 pound braid and a 15-foot long leader with the 4-0 circle hook is a good offshore setup for success when using live bait. Here's a few photos of some fresh tuna fillets we got last week. First photo will be the fish fillets, and then I took those fillets and I turned it into ceviche.
Right.
Sunset ceviche.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow, you've got some great photos.
All right, well, let's turn
Nice.
this report into inshore now.
Inshore bonefish, of course, one of my other favorites. Bonefish bite's been good early or late. It's really hot right now, peak summer, so early or late when it's not blazing hot on the flats. Stealth is key, so be quiet on your boat. Don't slam the hatches or stomp around too much, and that'll help keep you incognito. Live shrimp are one of their favorite baits, but they'll eat artificials too, and of course are a great fish to catch on fly if you want a real challenge. Here's a photo of an angler, Max, and a bonefish on fly he landed with Captain Nathan Blackburn, and they also got 2 other fish on fly too that trip, so that's great.
Nice.
Good bonefish.
Congrats.
All right, one more to go.
Triple tail, we actually caught one of these yesterday too, but what a goofy looking, prehistoric fish. You wouldn't look at them and think that they're worth much, but they taste so good, white, flaky meat. Top 3 favorite for me to eat, top 3. They're so good. They're kind of just weird. They float around commercial buoy traps on the bay or in the Gulf, or they can be seen drifting around in the channel. So live shrimp, favorite bait, cast in front of them. Try not to spook them and land right on their heads. They're a little kind of tricky to catch, so it's got to be a good cast. And here's a picture of a triple tail landed with Captain Perry.
So Sarah, I
Perfect
got a
size.
couple questions for you. You know, when we're doing tarpon tournaments or whatever, we do a lot of pre-fishing. Have you done any pre-looking for your lobster?
Oh yes, I've been out there many days the past couple weeks, like on calm days. I've been scouting, we call that.
Scouting.
Or recon, checking old spots. Recon is checking old spots and scouting is looking for new spots.
So if somebody wants to book a charter, you do actually
I do charters,
lobster charters.
yes, and I have after mid-August I'm open for charters. So if anyone wants to go, you can find me on the internet, look up my name, or get with Rick. They have all my information. So
I think your
yeah,
information's
you can
usually
find
on
it.
the screen right
You can
here.
find my put the phone number.
All right, well, speaking of some information, we need to go ahead and get to the Shallow Sport Boats hotspots. And those are inshore, schools of bonefish around on the inshore flats. You're gonna look for the fish waking or just swimming in groups or maybe even a single. You're gonna cast ahead of them and hopefully they're gonna swim somewhere near your bait, smell your shrimp and find it. And you'll end up hooking one, catching a fish of a lifetime. And then offshore, better mahi action offshore as the summer goes on, and look for the weed lines and the birds diving on the bait or debris, and have your own good live bait ready to cast, or maybe you might want to troll a lure to get some good bites.
Well, Rick, look who we added down here. Look at this.
How about that? The boss mama from Shallow Sport, Kyra. Thank you so much for being here, and more importantly, thank you for your support both on the Florida Insider Fishing Report and Texas.
Yes, thank you guys. I'm so happy to be here. We got to come fish with Sarah and Nick this week, and I actually caught that triple tail yesterday for the record.
Good
Nice.
But Nick yelled at her, but she still caught it.
What?
That's okay.
Nick never yells.
Not at me.
He's speaking passionately.
Yeah, he can put himself in
man.
timeout if he yells at you, Okay.
Maybe.
A little bit.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the Florida Keys, and we'd love to see more of you here on the Florida.
It's a
and
pleasure
the
to be
Texas
here.
Insider
This
Fishing
this
Report.
is a wonderful set that you guys have here. A great show. We're really proud to be part of it.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you,
guys.
All right, Bree, where are we going next?
All right, we're going to take out our tickle sticks and nets into the Dynapack Southeast region, where Captain Jimbo Thomas knows a thing or two about finding these suckers. So go ahead, Jimbo.
Hey, Bree, Sarah, Rick, and Dave. Yep, mini season is like a national holiday here in the Southeast region. Everybody's been getting their dive gear ready and out scouting their spots, see what's there. And from the reports that I've had, it sounds like there's quite a few lobsters out there, so it should be a good mini season at the very least. Now, the entire region here is good for lobstering, but the further south you get, the better that lobstering gets. Now, I like to dive the patch reefs and isolated coral heads and ledges, anywhere from 10 to 20 feet of water in Hawks Channel. And also the outside reef holds lobsters, but they're usually really hard to catch in that harder, heavy bottom. And, catching them is the easy part. You just got to find them. And since the invention of GPS, there's really no such thing as a secret spot. So it's not uncommon for somebody else to be sitting on your secret spot. And if that happens, show some respect, proper etiquette, move to another spot. Don't want to have any lobster wars starting, which there will be some either way. Now, I like to use a net and a tickle stick. A lot of people like to use a noose or a snare, whatever you want to call it. And if there's a lot of lobsters on a spot, I usually work slowly and go for the biggest ones first. If you start going in there real crazy, they'll spook and start to walk. And when you go for the biggest ones, you get a little sense of what size you're dealing with. So you're not sitting there catching all those little guys and hurting them. And also with all the commotion of catching lobsters, it's not uncommon for a hawkfish or even a grouper to show up. So you want to keep your spear gun handy. And be sure to put up that dive flag and measure each lobster before you put them in that catch bag. And also follow all the rules, because those FWC officers are going to be out there in full force. Now, I got a photo here, and this is myself, yours truly, with a big Biscayne Bay lobster. Unfortunately, I didn't catch him last year. I caught him probably about 2 years ago. But staying inshore now, with all this heat we've had, peacock bass fishing has been on fire in the lakes and canals of South Broward and Dade County. Now, the best fishing has been in the middle of the day or right after an afternoon shower. You want to use small shiners, small lipless crankbaits in chartreuse, silver and black, or green and silver. And you want to work the bait extra fast. That's going to get the most bites. And if you're in some deeper water, dark-colored soft plastics and jigs, that's been getting the bites. And it seems that the artificials on certain days have been out fishing the live baits. You look for the peacocks that have been in the 2 to 3 pound range around any structure with clear moving water. And there's also been some largemouth bass caught in those same areas as the peacocks. Got another photo here. This is Andy Lauderdale with a nice Everglades peacock bass.
Nice.
Now moving offshore, dolphin have been very hit and miss. Now we've been heading offshore anywhere from 5 to 20 miles. If you're lucky enough to find something good floating, it's a good shot. You're going to have a nice hit there. Otherwise, there's been scatter sargassum weed with some bird activity over the schoolies. Not many big ones. And they've been getting bigger, but we've still been releasing a lot of short ones. If the fish are traveling to the south, they're most likely going to be a little bit bigger than the schools going to the north. Now, trolled ballyhoo and R&R mahi magnets are taking some of the bigger fish, and we like to keep a couple 20-pound spinners ready with 40 to 50-pound leader and a 5/0 hook with live or cut bait ready. So once we do find the fish, we got some spinners to cast to them. Got another photo here, and this is the biggest dolphin I've heard off Miami this season. Wow. It's a 41-pounder caught by 10-year-old Ryan Cossio aboard the Lisa L with Captain Mike Puller, and he does a summer camp called the Fishing Experience. These kids were attending the summer camp.
That's one of the best photos I've seen.
That's
in a
so
while.
awesome that they were camp fishing. That's so cool.
Yep. And to catch one like that, and I mean, nobody else has caught a big one like that I'm aware of. Yeah. But also, right now is a great time to get out there and look for some yellowtail, especially in the evenings when it's not 150 degrees out. You want to look for good bottom and 40 to 80 feet of water, get anchored up and start chumming with ground chum and glass minnows. And hopefully you have a little current that'll help get that chum slick going. Use a light spinning outfit with 12 to 15-pound test and a 2/0 hook. You want to tie that hook straight to the main line and free line it back with strips of squid, ballyhoo, or bonita in that chum until you get a bite. Also, the longer you sit there chumming, the closer those fish are going to get to the boat. Also, a small jig, bait it with a strip bait, and also drift it back in the chum will get the bites if those fish are hanging down a little deep. And these yellowtails have been averaging anywhere from 2 to 3 pounds, and there's also been some nice mangrove snappers mixed in the same areas.
All right, thank you so much, Jimbo. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the southeast region. Jimbo says, guys, inshore, look for the peacocks and the largemouth bass in any urban lake or canals throughout the entire region. And then offshore, get anchored up on the reef at sundown with plenty of chum for some yellowtail action.
All right, the Real Legend Central East region is giving us a heads up as lobster season approaches. But first, we're talking all things lobster for Academy Sports and Outdoors rigs and techniques at the CCA Workbench with Dave Farrell and Captain Sarah Stanzik. Hi, guys.
I'm stealing money again.
You are.
Sarah's going to be doing all the work again.
Oh.
I'm just going to feed her questions and see what she has to say.
I think
Dave?
I'm coming over for this one, Dave. I need to learn about this.
You
Yes,
should.
you do.
All right, bud.
We'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Sirius XM Marine. Weather, fish mapping, entertainment. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Shallow Sport. Legendary performance. And Daiquiri Deck. Food, drinks, friends.
Well, we're here at the CCA Workbench, and it's time for the Academy Sports and Outdoors Rigs and Techniques, and we've brought in our lobster specialist, Sarah Stanzik from the Florida Keys. Sarah, what are we going to do to catch these lobsters?
I'm going to show you all how to tickle a lobster out from under, or this is a rock, we're calling this. So we're just going to practice, but you want to have your gear when you go lobstering. First and foremost, gloves are a must. You got to have a good set of gloves, measuring device, tickle stick, and net. Those are like the main things that you need.
Mask fins and snorkel.
Yes, and be able to hold your breath. So
Good wind.
yes, that's the basics though. So Lobsters like to hide under structure during the
Right.
day when we go snorkeling for them. At night, they'll come out and walk on the flats, and you catch them bully netting and other methods. So
Right.
today, we're going to pretend like he's under a rock, hiding. He's hiding.
He's hiding
This
under
lobster
here.
is a live lobster, by the way. He's legal size. He's with the FWC people, so just so everybody knows. I already measured him. He's legal. So the way we catch the lobsters, dive down, hold your breath, right? You're gonna tickle him out. So you put the tickle stick behind his butt,
Right.
and you kind of just coax him out, and they
Right.
crawl underwater. He'll come out from the rock, and then you want to get your net and go up and behind them like that.
Because when they spook,
They go
they're
backwards.
gonna dart off.
Yes,
Like
they
a
go
shrimp.
backwards. So if you come at him like this, he gone. Like
Yeah.
you won't get him.
You don't have your glove in the right place.
No, definitely not. So
I
that's
got it.
your regular net. This is the Florida lobster net. This thing is cool. Have you seen one of these?
No, why is that so
they're
long and
clear.
not wide?
Yeah, so they're clear, so the lobster can't see them coming.
Oh.
So and
Ah.
it's really cool. So Florida
Plus,
lobster
it's smaller,
nets.
so it can get into
Florida
holes
lobster
better,
nets.
right?
Yeah, you can actually stick it in between like a ledge or a rock and a lobster, and look how nice it fits over their body. It's like meant for lobsters. So you just put it over top and you grab them.
Grab
And
them
but
with the glove.
the clearness, it's acrylic, so they can't see it. So you can really sneak up on them with this. It's just a cool tool. I brought it, just
I
to
like
show
it.
you
It is
how.
cool.
It's like having
Yeah,
camo when you're
it is.
hunting.
It's underwater. It's clear, like the water.
And then where does this thing come in?
And this is your bag. So
Your
once,
catch bag,
once
I
you
guess.
catch the lobster with
Mm-hmm.
your glove and everything, you want to take them and you put them in the bag, and it goes down into the bag like this, and then they can't get out because it's a one-way throat.
Right.
Oh,
Now
I
remember,
gotcha.
you just got to
Yeah.
remember to zip your zipper before you,
You told
put
me.
lobsters in the bag, because if you don't,
I can imagine me being like Johnny
They'll all come
Appleseed,
out.
sprinkling lobsters all over
they'll
the
all
place
come
after I
out
catch
and you'll
them.
cry. And then, of course, when you catch your lobster, you want to measure it and make sure it's proper size. So different methods for that. But I like to use this stick, so you just stick it
That
on there
stick
like that.
has it on there?
Yep, that's the measuring device right there. So
Oh,
we're going to see
perfect.
more about that in a little while. But yes, always measure your lobster in the water before you take it on the boat.
And you can keep 6 per person,
per person per day.
That's not per trip. You can't make 4 trips during the day and get
No.
24 lobsters. You got to do 1 trip a day.
6 per person per day.
So Sarah, based on your experience, what are the mistakes that people make time and time again?
Biggest mistake I see people doing is net placement. So like I talked about before, when I take people on charters who have never been before, you
Yeah.
want to put the net behind the tail on the ground, because if you sweep them like this or you come at them like that, like you're just going to miss them. So like this,
Right.
and then just drop it. You can let go of the net at that point because they're going to be up in the net. And
Right.
you just grab the
Scoop-
net,
scooting
you're going to be out
around
of
in
air,
here.
you come back up. Yeah,
Gotcha.
so net behind the tail, drop it.
All right.
But it takes 2 years, they say, for a lobster to go from where it settles on the bottom as a small baby lobster
To be-
until it gets legal size. And a lobster can be up to 15 years old. A 10-pound lobster is probably 15 years old or older even.
So those big ones that they catch up the state in the panhandle where they're using tanks, I think I saw in some of the guys' reports that they're diving 60 to 80 feet in some
Right.
cases with tanks, but they're catching
They're huge.
these monsters.
Even in the Bahamas, they get big over there.
Yeah.
They're harder to catch, so.
Yeah, when
bigger.
they're not getting pressured as much. When
Yeah.
you're in that shallow water, and especially down in the Keys, like after this lobster season coming up, the mini season, all the shallow places probably get pretty hammered.
Yeah.
It's the secret ones that are out in deeper water where the divers go. They could probably get a lot bigger ones than the fellas who are closer to
Quickly,
the shore.
what's your favorite way to have them?
Lobster mac and cheese.
Lobster mac and cheese.
That sounds
How did
awesome.
I know that she was going to say lobster
mac and cheese.
It's a youthful thing, right?
Yeah. Well, the kids like it.
When you
I
get
like
to
it.
be in me and Dave's age, you can't afford the carbohydrate.
Yeah.
So guess what? It's
Oh,
no
I'm eating it.
No
I,
mac and cheese.
I can afford the carbohydrate,
All right.
obviously.
Great job. We appreciate you over here. We appreciate you
Thanks.
coming up from the Florida Keys to share some of your captain's secrets.
Yep.
And guys, if you want to
So
go
put him back.
book a charter with Captain Sarah, her information's right there on the screen, or you can contact us and we'll make sure that we can make that happen.
That's what
croaking.
they look like, Dave.
Yeah, exactly.
He's never caught one, he said.
know.
That's what they
Oh my
look
gosh.
like. He just caught his first one.
Exactly.
There you go.
There you go, Bree.
It's easy when they're in a bucket.
All this lobster talk is just getting me so excited over here.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave. All right. Well, Jim, the Real Legend Central East region has a lot going on species-wise, but I hear you have some promising news for all the lobster divers out there, as Rick was just talking about tanks, so go for it.
Well, first of all, you don't have to be young to eat lobster mac and cheese because I'm full throttle on that, as you can tell by my figure. But There's nothing like a lobster in the Central East region and the northern part of the state. We get some giants up here, and it looks like it's going to be a really good lobster season in the Real Legends region because we've got some fantastic conditions for divers to get down there and grab some of these bugs. There's very few areas that I've got cold, dirty water reports throughout the region, and you're going to find those bigger bugs out in 70 to 90 feet like Rick was just talking about. You're going to be wearing tanks for the most part to get down to those. The smaller ones generally show up on our near coastal reefs from Sebastian south to Vero, and then our average lobster runs about 2 to 3 pounds, but those bigger ones, like Rick was mentioning, some of them get 10 pounds. They are definitely possible. Now, I didn't have any pictures from last year's sportsman season or open season, but I wanted to show a couple of red snapper pictures. The first one is of the Sorensens. Actually, that's Greg Lund, Captain Greg Lund, Orson Tarver, Daniel Kolodny, and I'm not sure who the other person is, but that was a limit in, I think he said 45 minutes out of the East Central Port here, Canaveral. And then the second one, I think, is going to be, the Sorensens. They went a little bit deeper. They fished out on the 21 fathom, 27 fathom area. And of course, you start throwing those grouper in there whenever you start to get out there a little bit deeper. We've got some good stuff going on in the Central East region right now. Nice. Now, my other species offshore is the king mackerel, and it's smoker season on the Space Coast. So most of the anglers that are getting out there are starting to catch some of these bigger mackerel along the beaches. We're trolling live pogies, mullet, greenies, and pilchards. Those seem to be the best and most frequently you're going to come across and be able to net or catch. And then ribbon fish are also really good, especially if you're targeting the larger fish. You put that ribbon fish either right in your prop wash or put it on your downrigger, and you can get those at your local bait shop, or you can catch your own at night around lighted docks and things like that, especially like inside Port Canaveral. You want to slow troll any of those baits that I just talked about over bait pods, near reef structures, along the drop-offs, coming in and out of the channels and the tide lines. Really good places to find those bigger smokers right now. Our average fish is running about 16 to 25 pounds, but we've got a lot of fish that are pushing that 30 and 35 pound class, and you're going to see even more of those come in as we come into this next full moon at the beginning of the next month. I've got another kingfish picture here, or a kingfish picture here. Got Captain Jeff out of Ponce Inlet. That's one he caught on a 4,000 spinning reel, so kind of a surprise, but you never know when those kingfish are going to show up along the beach and you get a shot at them. Now, swinging inshore, our speckled trout bite remains really good. In fact, it's been really strong on the drop-offs and channel edges and spoil islands in all 3 lagoons this week. You want to find areas that have bait fish, but keep an eye on your temperature. In the areas where the temperature is below about 88 or 89 degrees, that's where you're finding more trout. When you get up on the flats, you're not finding as many because the temperatures are too high. They're getting up into the 90-degree range, and the fish, they just don't like that. Saltwater Assassin, 4-inch sea shatter working really good, the watermelon green, and the new little P&V is working great. The Houdini, the Canada Craw, and watermelon slice have all been really good colors, as well as that watermelon red flake. And if you're a fly angler, any kind of a crustacean pattern, as long as it kind of looks shrimpy or crabby, that 1.5 to 2 inch range is a great time to get out there and cast along those drop-offs, especially with those ones that have the little bead chain or beaded eyes on them, so they have a little bit of a jigging action to them when you strip them. There's a lot of sail cats in the area, but you're going to catch plenty of trout as well in the 14 to 20 inch range. And then my last species is snook. Snook bite, I can't say enough about it. Just continues to be amazing. These fish are feeding again. They're getting, it's just I don't even know. It's the full moon, new moon, it doesn't matter. It just seems like they're eating all the time. You want to target them in the rivers near the flats that are along those drop-offs and around spoil islands where you find glass minnows. And if you find glass minnows and finger mullet mixed together, even better. Out along the beaches, you're going to find them around pilchard pods, greenie pods, pogie pods. Or we've got some mullet that are starting to move north up through the region right in the surf break. And so it's a great time to throw lip diving plugs. Docks and overhanging mangrove trees are good places to check back on the inside as well. I forgot to mention that. Our snook are running 25 to 35 inches right now. And I've got a nice snook here that Ryan caught the other day. And that's one of those fish along the beach that you guys can go out there and get. Nice, fat, chunky snook right now for all of you East Coast anglers that want to get out there and fish along the surf.
Man, that's beautiful, looking good. All right, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Rodan Marine System hotspots from the Central East region. He says inshore, speckled trout around the spoil islands and lagoon flats with lots of mullet on them. Check that out. You got to make sure they have the mullet. Use the Bass Assassin P&V Watermelon Red Flake or Houdini colors in an 1/8 ounce Assassin jig head, spring lock jig head. And then offshore, king mackerels along the beaches and the near shore reefs use live pogies or mullet on a wire stinger rig for those smokers.
Fat, thick, chunky snook.
Yeah, man.
That's what I like to hear.
Sea runs.
Yeah. All right. Well, in case anyone was wondering, lobster, they're not a species in the STAR competition, but any other fish you catch can be entered to win your share of $500,000 in prizes. The summer competition still does not have a tagged redfish winner, leaving the Contender, Pathfinder, Deck Cat, Carolina Skiff, and the Sea-Doo Can-Am package up for grabs. You can still register for the competition and have lots of time to get out there and catch fish to win prizes. Go to ccaflstar.com to find out more and to get registered. All right, well, coming up on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, Lobster Edition, we're jumping in the Fish Bites East and Front Runner Boats Northeast region, plus we're finding out where the lobster are with our friend from FWC and his canine companion, Miss Liberty. We'll be right back. Look how cute she is.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, your fish, our science, Bahio Sunglasses, blue light blocking, radically clear lenses, Sea Sucker, easy on, easy off, incredibly strong, Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure, Kubota, together we do more, Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA. And Yanmar ASV, a leader in compact equipment.
So guys, as you can tell, I got the Major Alberto Mazza with me from FWC. You know, Alberto, let's just talk a little bit about the season. We got lobster season. When does it start?
It starts next Wednesday, the 27th at 12 o'clock at night.
All right, so while we're talking about this, I think we ought to let Nate and Liberty kind of get started looking around. You know, take your time, Nate. I want you to make sure you thoroughly, she's a lobster sniffing dog, of course, right?
Of course, she's here for a special reason.
Ready? And we've hidden some lobsters. Take your time, Nate. Take your time. And while you're doing that, Alberto, we're gonna keep talking about. So the season starts in another week or so. It starts at midnight. All right. So what are the things you have to have? Dive flag?
So dive flag is very important. So when you have a dive flag on the vessel, if you're going to be diving from your vessel, 20 by 24 should be the size of it. If you're going to be diving from land or from a buoy, it's a 12 by 12 flag so that boaters can see you and they can stay away from you, for safety in the water.
Well, that's cool. So, Nate, is she saying something there?
Yes, she got something. What you got? I'm just waiting for the command. Good job, baby.
What did she find?
Good job. Let me see. Come here, baby. Come here. Oh, she had a lobster.
So we had a lobster in a bucket inside there. So
we're gonna continue looking the boat.
Okay, so let us know if there's something that she comes up with, because certainly she's the star of the show right now.
Come on. Come on, baby. Come on. Oh, she gave me some indication there is something in the engine.
So she's you can tell by her pointing her nose at the engine there, or how'd you know?
Yes. Come, baby.
Huh. Now, do people hide, Nate, do people hide lobsters in engines?
Yes.
Come on.
What you got?
Oh, there, yeah.
Show me. Show me, baby. Show me. Show me. Good job. Good job, baby. Come on, sit.
So, Bree, you going to check that and see if she's correct?
Yep, I will help
Sit.
you.
Stay.
Hello, Miss Lady Liberty. All right,
Oh, look what I found in here.
There we have it.
I have an undersized spiny tail round tail.
Undersized, huh?
Inside.
Good job,
That's
Liberty.
so awesome.
We'll put that back.
So, Alberto, so we've got our dive flag. How many feet do people need to respect that from?
300 feet, and if you need to go within the 300 feet because that's your special spot, go in their idle speed.
All right, and so what about how big does the flag have to be?
20 by 24 in the vessels, 12 by 12 if you're going to use it from the shoreline or off a buoy that you're dragging along.
All right, so how is the typical way people are catching them?
So the captain kind of showed the tickle stick method with the net, probably the most traditional method, but you also got snares. What we're looking for, as long as you're not puncturing the lobster or you're not harpooning it, putting any kind of holes or killing it underwater, those are all illegal methods. So net and tickle stick and your snares and bully netting at night.
So when is it? Let's talk about how you guys are going to measure them. You're the authority on this, so why don't you show us how we're going to measure?
So a common mistake that we see with the measuring of lobsters is that the divers try to measure the eyes, and once you measure the eyes, it gives you a false sense of what the real size is. The size has to be the carapace, and the carapace is the hard part, the shell of this lobster.
Right.
So if the good trick is if you put it right, you'll see the eyes kind of go up.
Oh, okay.
So if the eyes go up, you're on the front part of that carapace, and if once the gauge goes down, if it doesn't fit over it, that's a larger than 3-inch carapace. It's a legal size lobster. Once you're done with that, you should always, or before that, check to make sure there's not an egg-bearing lobster. You'll see an orange pack of eggs.
Right.
That has to be released to the water immediately.
Okay, and so now I'm going to put this on here, and this actually shows that it's illegal. Illegal.
It goes over
illegal lobster because it's in the carapace.
Correct. So if you notice the gauge falls over the back of the carapace, that's an undersized crawfish that has to be returned to the water.
All right, guys, you got to keep them whole until you get back to the dock. You can't wring the tails until you get back to the dock. Where do people find out more information?
If you go to myfwc.com, you get all the information there on special areas. If anything in the Keys, special areas you stay away from. They'll have all our information on that website. Also, Fish App is a very good app that gives you locations of where you're at and what season applies to you.
To make sure you're not in a restricted area.
Yes, sir, of course.
Thank you, Major. Thank you, Liberty. Thank you, Nate. You guys did a wonderful job. Bree, we still got to keep going. I feel like we need more time.
We do need more time, but I reckon you're ready to get in the water and get some lobster, Rick.
No.
You look ready. He goes, no.
As long as it's under 4 feet.
There you go. All right. Well, if you're on the hunt in the Fish Bites East region, Captain Mike Holliday says they have the bugs that will give you some tugs. So, Mike, expand on that.
Yeah, Bree, we have amazing lobster diving in my region, whether you like to beach dive or hit those deep reefs. And you want to keep in mind that lobster season is open all the way until the last day of March. A lot of guys just go those first couple weeks of the season, but as we get into September and October, there's some amazing lobster diving in my region. If beach diving is your game, check out the rock piles off Hope Sound Public Beach, Lake, Bathtub Beach, then along South Beach and North Beach and Fort Pierce. And don't forget about the Vero Cove, really nice reef lines that are, under 15 feet deep. All those areas will have heavy pressure during the mini season and first couple weeks of the regular season. But, there's also a ton of great patch reefs in 15 to 25 feet of water that runs all the way from the breakers in Palm Beach, all the way up the coast to the Pines area off Wabasso. And that stuff really doesn't get picked over like the more popular spots. If deep water is your game, we have an expansive natural reefs like the 6 and 8 mile reef. We have a 65-foot, 75-foot, and 120-foot ledges that run the entire length of my region, not to mention some of the great medium-depth wrecks and artificial reefs like the David T., the Halsey, the Texas, the Amazon. All that stuff's really good. And it seems like, the larger lobster that come out of my region seem to come from the shallow reefs, and the bigger numbers and the slipper lobster seem to come from the deeper reefs. One last thing you want to do is make sure you dive with a buddy at all times. Have a flag up at all times, very high. Anytime somebody's in the water, flags up, people out of the water, flags down, and have a measuring device while you're in the water. So let's talk fishing. The mutton snapper bite from Fort Pierce to Palm Beach has been spectacular. We're starting to see more fish pushing up shallow to feed on the hatchet turtles. The Loran Ledge, a 6 mile reef, are still producing good fish, but the current has been smoking. So you need 15, 20 ounces of lead just to hold bottom in 75 feet of water. Some of the better shallow areas producing fish are the sand pile off Stewart and the reef line along Peck's Lake. That's been really good at night. Keep in mind, where you find one mutton, you're likely to find more. And when they're schooling, they're very competitive. For bait, anything from a pilchard, threadfin, or sardine to a grunt plug or whole squid work. I got a great photo of Chris Megan with a nice mutton snapper. He got to eat a live threadfin. That was on a reef in 55 feet of water off Hook Sound.
What a beautiful fish, Mike. All right, tell us about the inshore, bud.
Yeah, this has been a crazy summer. In a normal year, the schools of big jacks that you find on the beach in the spring months are already gone, and we're focusing on tarpon. But this year, the jacks have lingered all the way into July, all the way into the end of July, and the best concentrations are between Jupiter and Fort Pierce. Run the beach looking for schools of 200 to 1,000 fish up on the surface. You can throw anything from a topwater plug to a fly popper at them. Just about any live bait they're going to blow up on. A lot of these fish are over 30 pounds, so make sure your tackle is heavy enough to handle a big fish and get them in fairly quickly. Average jack in my region right now is 25 pounds. I got a photo of Sarah Machesko. She got that jumbo jack to eat a fly. She was fishing with Captain Cody Rubner out of Stewart.
Nice.
The other thing we got going, the catch and release snook bite has really hit its summer stride, particularly on the beaches and at the Lake Worth and Juneau Piers. Places like the Hope Sound Wildlife Refuge, Bob Graham Beach, Walton Rocks Beach, and the Vero Cove. All those areas have plenty of fish running the troughs right now. Start your day throwing a copper juice colored saltwater assassin 4-inch sea shed, or really any small bait fish fly. And then as the sun gets up, move to live croakers or pilchards or threadfin, really whatever you can cast net in the location that you're fishing. And look for the red minnow and pilchard schools, which will push in onto the beach over the next couple of weeks. The fish will really congregate around that. Average snook is 8 to 15 pounds. And I got a photo of a really nice one we caught on fly the other day. Jimmy Fee of Falmouth, Massachusetts. He got that fish in the St. Lucie Inlet, and that fish ate a small bait fish fly.
All right, Mike, every week you're in charge of a bass report. What do you have for us this week?
Yeah, the summer heat hasn't hurt the peacock bass fishing in the South Florida lakes and canals. So places like the C-100 Canal, Miami Airport Lakes, and even, all the way up in Palm Beach County in a Lake Osborne Ida chain. They're seeing really good peacock bite going right now. If you want a good topwater bite, the key is to be on the water early and throwing small topwater prop baits or those little floating lip baits that are only about 3 or 4 inches long. Work that along the shoreline structure, around the bridges and around the culverts. And then as the day heats up, the canal fish will hold along the shoreline, particularly around the down trees and the docks and the undercut banks. And you can throw a Bass Assassin Fire Tiger or Glitterbug colored 4-inch turbo shad or a 3.5-inch die dapper or 3.5-inch little boss. Really anything that looks like a bait fish in those soft plastic is going to work. In the lakes, a lot of the fish go deep, so live shiners are the way to go. Average peacock bass is 2 to 4 pounds. Fish up to 8 pounds being caught right now.
All right, Mike, thank you so much. Great report. I appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the TH Marine hotspots. He says inshore tarpon at night in Fort Pierce Inlet. Try live mullet, crabs, or saltwater assassin Artemis shad on the outgoing tide. And then offshore, mangrove snappers in 65 feet of water off of Fort Pierce, sardines, cigar minnows, and grunt plugs, and with a 5-0 circle hook is going to work for them. Snap us.
All right, if you're sticking around the Front Runner Boats Northeast region for your lobster dinner, be prepared to get the scuba gear out. But if that's kind of not your thing, Captain Tommy Derringer has plenty of other fun options for us, don't you, Tommy?
That's right, Bree. You know what? Hey, we do have some lobster here in the Front Runner Boats Northeast region. But like you said, you do have to go deep, and there's some hardcore divers that do it, but I'm going to leave that to them, and I'm going to talk about some kingfish because you know what? We have an awesome kingfish bite here over the last few weeks. The kingfish have been going off pretty much throughout the entire region, both on the beach and offshore. Those beach fish have been pretty big on average as well. The usual spots right there along the beach have been holding the kings in about 30 to 55 feet of water. Slow trolling live pogies, either up top or on the downrigger. That's always going to be the go-to method. But you can drag a variety of, you can drag a lure or a variety of dead baits as well. You're going to want to really slow down on the troll. And in fact, a lot of guys, I've been noticing this, have been on their trolling motors to help control their speed and really slow them down instead of on the big motor. Now, the offshore reefs, they've also been holding good numbers of kingfish. During last weekend's red snapper season, there was a ton of kingfish caught as a bycatch offshore. We caught a nice handful of them in our chum slick while we were chumming up some snappers. Now, the Ancient City Game Fish Association, they had their annual kingfish tournament this last weekend. There was quite a few fish, over 45 pounds weighed in. That tells you there's some big fish out there right now. And speaking of big kingfish, I've got a picture here. My good buddy, Nate Stewart, sent me this picture of him and his 4-year-old son, Dax, with Dax's 47-pound kingfish he caught to win the junior division of that ACGA Kingfish tournament this past weekend. Congratulations, guys. That's awesome.
Guys. That's so bad. That's
All
right, let's
go offshore.
All right, so
Snappers, man. Hey, I thought I'd give a quick recap last weekend's short red snapper season, and shocker, there was an absolute ton of those big red snappers caught. In fact, most of the captains and anglers I spoke to said they limited out very quickly, and then when they tried to move on to catch something else, it was tough because so many of those red snapper are around. Aside from the red snappers, though, the mangrove snappers are chewing as well. I spoke to Captain Shane Stover from Inshore Adventures. He told me that they caught their red snappers quickly in about 65 feet of water and then moved on out to those 120, on out to about 140 foot depths, and they chummed up some big mangroves. Now, Captain Shane said over the next couple of weeks leading up to the full moon, that mangrove bite should only get better. He said he's going to chum with some cut sardines, and you're going to want to downsize your leader and your hook size a little bit. They can be a little shy. Then just free line a chunk with a chunk of that chum with your hook buried in it, and then hold on. And I've got another picture here. Captain Jimmy Laidler sent me this picture of some extra large red snappers that they caught on the Legendary out of St. Augustine. How about the size of those things, guys?
Those are some real studs there, bud. All right, let's go inshore.
Yeah, man, the flounder bite continues to be good this week throughout the region. Last week, the flounder bite, they were in the inlets and even out along some of the nearshore wrecks, but it seems like this week they've started to move a little further inshore into the creeks and along the intercoastal waterway. With the early morning low tide, it's going to be a good bet to fish those small runouts right along the ICW banks. Use either a big mud minnow or a finger mullet. There's some perfect sized finger mullet around right now. Just cast up current and then really slow, drag that bait along the bottom. Now, I like to look for those runouts that have the concentrations of bait in them. That's where those fish are going to stack up. Also, the creek bends on low tide, that's going to be a good bet as well. And the redfish will probably be in there too, at least until that tide really starts to move back in. Now, staying inshore, the tarpon. Man, the tarpon bite has been going off for us this week. There's some really big fish around. The tarpon have been on the pogie pods right along the beach, from Flagler, in the south end of the region, all the way up to Fernandina. Sometimes you got to make a long run to find the right bait pod where they're feeding. But you know what? The ocean's basically been like a lake lately, so that's not really a big deal. Just net some pogies, either free line or float them right along the edges of those bait schools. I like to use 40 up to about 60-pound fluorocarbon leader, use a 5 to 7/0 circle hook, depending on what size pogie you're catching. You know, those tarpon have mostly been active in the early morning, but you know, some days like today, they fired back up right around 10 o'clock, 10:30. And I got one last picture here, guys. Captain Mike McGeehan from Island Fishing Charter sent me this picture of JJ and Brody Webster with a nice tarpon they pulled out of a pogie pod just north of St. Augustine.
He's cheesing. He's
Well,
happy.
thank you so much, Tommy. It's a great report, but it is time for the strike zone hotspots from the Northeast Front Runner region. He says inshore, tarpon in the pogie pods along the beaches from Flagler on down to Fernandina. And then offshore, you want to go kingfish on the beach or maybe offshore around the reefs and wrecks throughout the entire region.
Well, speaking of kingfish, and congrats to the little 4-year-old. That was
Man.
awesome. Gosh, it puts my
Ruined
Mia to
forever.
shame.
Ruined.
She's 5 and she hasn't caught one that big. That's all right. Coming up August 5th is the North Florida King of the Beach Tournament, sponsored by Front Runner Boats. With over $350,000 in cash and prizes, the first place largest king, Rick, get this, wins a 26 Front Runner boat. Oh my gosh. For more information and to get registered, go to nfkingofthebeach.com. If that's not enough reason to enter, I don't know what is. But anyways, we're seeing what the Casa Vieja Southwest region has for us for our weekend warriors next. But we've got our Taco Marine new product warrior at the CCA workbench, all jacked up on iCast Juice.
Yes. What? You know, look at this. This is a pretty big lure, right?
Ooh.
Not really. It's not. It's not.
Takes the cake. We'll be back.
Looks like Savage likes them big, baby.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Penn, let the battle begin. Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, best lures, period. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
So we're here at the CCA workbench, and you know what? It's time for Trolling the Edge,
Yes.
Taco Marine's new products. So let's just get into it.
We're going to start
Dave.
with that jumbo down there at the end, the realistic flying fish lure, Savage Gear's BFT flyer, and it's a really cool thing there. You know,
really is.
obviously made to catch giant tuna fishes and marlins. They use a 3D scan of a real flying fish to make that.
Right.
It's got a nice line through system. Comes with all that rigging there. It's designed to skip across the surface or be used on a kite. You know, you can even rig it for a kite, which, you know, would be deadly for the tunas especially. It's got a PVC body and these semi-soft wings. You know, they're not real hard, they're not real soft, but they won't probably break. You know, they give you an additional set just in case and an extra rig with the bands here to keep it going. It's got a 16-inch body and a 16-inch wingspan. So, you know, it's a pretty good size, but you know, you got to figure a 100-pound blue marlin can eat a 10-pound bait, and that's not even half the size of that. So he could get that right down.
Yep.
Yeah,
Awesome.
SavageGear.com. Next, real quick, we have the Savage Gear Panic Popper. You know, it's made to catch big predatory game fish again, like tunas and big snappers and, you know, big dolphin even, actually. It's got heavy-duty hardware that take up to 120 pounds of pressure. It's got the 4X hooks on there. You can see those hooks are huge and welded at the top. They come in like 4 different sizes, from a 95 millimeter up to a 195. That's the 195, a 7.5 inch, and it weighs like 4 ounces.
Got to go big or go home,
Yeah,
baby.
man, and it's got the long cast system in it. Big popper on the front, really pushes a lot of water. Should get attention from anything that's busting bait on the surface.
I just
and
like-
you
I
get
like
both
their-
of those at SavageGear.com.
All right.
Next, we got the Island Sail Lure. One of my favorite lures of all time is the Sail Lure, and this is the one now that they have with the octopus, the rubber octopus skirts. Before, the Sail Lures always had the nice big nylon skirt with the hair skirts, but now they're starting, you know, a lot of guys like these rubber skirts, so that's what they're putting on them. You know, this thing's been catching fish for over 30 years. I remember the first time I bought one, I was a little kid. You know, it's got the, they have a really cool little plug system in here that allows them to put the skirts on it, and that concave head up in the front really pushes, and it'll keep it going straight too. It's got that center, the hole is in the center, in the middle of that round concave action, so it will go straight as an arrow for you, up to probably 9 or 10 knots. I mean, it's mainly for 5 to 8 knots with a ballyhoo behind it, but it will go a little faster than that, I think.
I love it. The right color, baby.
Next, we've got the AFTCO black tapered fiberglass gaff. Comes in a 4, a 6, and an 8. Super strong, yet lightweight E-glass construction. It's custom designed to be light and very strong, extreme strength and rigidity. It's got the 3/16 stainless steel hooks. They come in 2, 3, and 4 inch. That's the 2 inch. I always think it's better to err on the side of smaller when you're getting a gaff hook, because the smaller one always goes in.
I don't agree with that in the least bit.
I got you. Black epoxy finish, hand wrapped metallic gold trim, soft but durable foam grips on there, but it also has this really nice tape, non-slip tape in between the grips and also up in the front. So like when you go to transfer that fish over the gunnel and you reach down to get by the hook, you won't be slipping down here, which is very important because you don't want to be slipping down here around the hook.
Very smart idea.
Yeah. So go to AFTCO.com to get that. And last but not least, real quick, we have the TH Marine waterproof cell phone pouch. It glows in the dark. Are you kidding me? You'll
Turn
be able
the
to
lights
find
off.
it. Fits most cell phones and handheld GPS units, and the touchscreen works just fine. I found that it's really cool to put your phone in there, and you can video hands-free
Where's
from
your
your
phone?
belly. From your belly.
Sure.
It'll fit in there.
Perfect.
So,
Boom.
waterproof.
Let me close it up.
It's waterproof, and it's got that little lanyard allows you to do all your stuff without even having to hold on to it.
So you got skull and crossbones.
I do have a skull and
Let me tell you why I don't agree with the small
Let's hear
gaff.
it.
Because
Let's hear it.
I've gaffed big fish
Yeah.
across the back, and it tears out of them.
Well, it's a bad, you should hit the head. That's what I'm
Dave.
going for.
Dave.
I've also gaffed like mackerels and wahoos with a big hook and went all the way around them.
Well, that's
and then
because
slid
you're
them
catching
off.
too small a fish.
Ah, okay.
Oh, you
You got to
guys.
catch a big fish, man.
I'm usually not the one missing them, though. I'm going for their eyeballs.
It's never about missing. It's just tears out of the flesh. I've seen it happen on
Right,
some
right.
really big kingfish. Seen it happen on tarpon.
Yeah. Hit 'em in the
I
back.
Back in the day.
I just love when
Hit 'em in
the
the hard
kids
spot.
fight over there at the CCA workbench. It just makes me so happy.
Perfect.
All right, well, there are plenty of other species to keep you busy and boasting during lobster season in the Casa Vieja Southwest region. So let's see what Captain Ronnie Houston has us targeting. Go for it, Ronnie.
Well, like you said, lobster is not common in the region, but I'll tell you what's common, the snook bite. Good down in the southern end of the region, and the best thing about it is, if you're looking to get your personal best, now's the time. Goodland and Lossman River, outer Gulf Points, and middle bays along Independent Island. Now, the mid-tides have been best, especially in areas of good moving water. Now, you want to concentrate on points, blowdowns, and deadwood are the main spots you want to target. Baits of choice are going to be live herring, pilchards, and cut baits on the bottom knocker rig. But when it comes to artificials, the big topwater walk-the-dog lures like the Jaywalker 120s, 5 to 7 inch swim baits like the Bass Assassin Artemis Shad, and we're talking spoons right now, 3/4 ounce to 1 ounce gold and silver spoons. And I have a nice picture of an oversized fish that actually inhaled an Artemis Shad where I had to cut the leader and release that fish. So fish like that are being caught down in the southern end. On the inshore side, still the redfish. Mixed reports right now from north to south. To the north, Bull Bay, Turtle Bay, West Wall area. You know, your 2 tide days seem to be better instead of an all-day incoming or outgoing. Low water, potholes, and troughs along the flats. Look for these fish to be pushing on south. But to the south, Indian Key to Lossman River, lower tides seem to be better. These fish are grouped up on the last half of the outgoing, first half of the incoming. Now, your higher tide bite can be pretty tough in both instances. Baits of choice for the species is going to be live pilchards. Here we go again. Cut baits on the bottom, soft plastic artificial shrimp and paddle tails, along with bucktail, skipper, and shrimp, or you can tip them with ladyfish. I've got a nice picture of a fish recently caught up in the Bull Bay area. Before I go offshore, I've seen it on social media. You can't win if you're not registered. CCA takes the time for the CCA Star to get these great prizes out. I hate to see you catch a tag redfish and not be registered and missing out on a good prize. So please, you got till September 4th to win something. Please get registered. The offshore side, the red groupers. Now that bite can be hit and miss for quality fish, as well as getting a good consistent bite and not having to work as hard. One key thing is good moving current along with good moving water. Drifting is a good option. Once you find them, circle back around and anchor up. Key depths right now are 80 to 130 feet. You want to bounce back and forth in those depths till you get in the zone. Bouncing bucktails and squid, vertical jigs, and a variety of cut baits like squid, herring, and sardines. Going to have to mix it up right now and see what works best. I got a picture of a couple nice groupers caught while vertical jigging. Last piece is going to be the red snapper. That bite continues to be good as long as we have good weather to make the runs right now from 150 to 240 feet. Cut baits have been working well on 6-pound fluorocarbon, 6-0 circle hooks, but you're going to have to vary your depths if things are tough. Sooner or later, you're going to get on them, and the limit's going to come quick once you do. If cut baits are not working, have a variety of live pinfish, herring, and cigar minnows. Some days mixing it up to figure out what they want is going to be the key. I have a picture of some snappers and groupers while mixing it up. Guys, weather looks good for the weekend. Get out and catch some fish.
All right, thank you so much, Midnight. Great pictures this week. Sounds like your Southwest region's on fire. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Serenity Bait Company Southwest hotspots. He says inshore, the nighttime tarpon bite, fishing bridge spans from Punta Gorda to Fort Myers Beach using large swim baits and live baits, and then offshore, the permit from Marco to Fort Myers Beach, fishing wrecks, artificial reefs, and you want to use a live crab for those.
All right, Rick. Well, the topic of shark depredation has been a major focus in fisheries management circles. I know, for a number of years. CCA has now partnered with organizations to endorse legislation that calls for the establishment of a task force on shark depredation that would be responsible for improving coordination and communication across the fisheries management community, as well as identifying research priorities and funding opportunities. Head to ccaflorida.org/SharkAct, or you can scan the QR code on your screen to find the Shark Act letter to send to Congress to support this cause.
Yeah, we make it easy. All you got to do is fill out the deal and send it to your congressman, and we got the balls rolling now.
Yep, send it. All right, the Startron Central West and Discover Crystal River Northwest regions are taking us into this weekend with some impressive catches, so stay hooked.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by StarTron. Start, run, and store with StarTron. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Tin Cup, Mountain Whiskey. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
You're just in time because fun times are on the horizon in the StarTron Central West region with Captain Jeff Page, but you better be ready to reel. What are we putting our backs into this weekend, Paige?
Well, we're not much of a lobster region in the state of Florida, but summertime can be a lot of fun offshore, especially on some of these calmer days with the amberjack. And he moves in as shallow as 60, 50 feet of water, holds on ledges, hard bottom areas, and can be brought to the surface by chumming smaller baits like pilchards or small thread fins to get them on the surface, and then you can catch them on heavy-duty surface plugs with good split rings and hooks, or you can vertical jig them with a vortex type up and down jig. Then, of course, live bait like pinfish or even cut strips of sardines work real well. I've got a nice photo tonight of an amberjack caught with Captain Tim No of Gulf Coast Offshore Ventures out of Sarasota. And my second offshore species, red grouper, another one that will feed pretty good in these warm water temperatures, but they are out a little deeper, 150 to 200 feet of water, live pinfish or frozen sardines on standard bottom rigs throughout the entire region. Guys have been steady catching the limit of the red grouper. And my red grouper photo tonight is from our good friend, Captain Jason Stock of Full Send Charters out of Anna Maria.
All right, let's go inshore, Paige.
Redfish, we're just coming off some really high tides. I mean, like 2.7, 2.8, which is a lot of water for our region. And it's on the backside of the new moon. Tides will still be high in the afternoon. Look for the fish early morning when the tides are a little lower, pushing on the flats on those light wind conditions. And it's a good time then that you can throw topwater plugs like the Jaywalker 120s in the bone or in the chrome pattern. Number one, you're going to get more distance. Now, if you're going to throw live bait at them, the pinfish or the pilchard under a cork is going to, number one, give you more distance on your cast, and also, number two, keep it out of the grass. Some of the other areas down south part of the region, out front of Bull and Turtle Bay, especially on the oyster bar areas, those fish will hold off those oyster bars and then move up onto the bars as the tide comes in. A redfish photo tonight is a good friend of yours and mine, Rick, Garrett Kaiser from Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda area.
Nice. Glad to see still fishes. I ain't seen him in so long. I'm glad to see he's out there. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. He's getting it done. And then our last species, and you know it's my favorite, speckled trout. And we're catching the trout, Rick, out in really deep grass, even 7, 8 feet. So the bay is so clear you can find the deeper patches. And then the more area of grass that you can drift over, for instance, off the Ringling Mansions in Sarasota Bay, also off Terracea Bay, Rattlesnake Key area, same thing. Find those deeper patches of grass, drift over them. You can throw a gulp shrimp under a popping cork. Works real well. You can throw subsurface lures like the Berkeley stick shad in the chrome or the bone pattern. Anything that's going to flash up on top, and you're going to do good. And the more small areas of small bait that you see on those flats is going to increase your strike ratio. My last photo tonight is some happy young anglers that are in the Sarasota Fishing Camp, which is put on by Captain R.C. Gilliland out of Siesta Key.
All right, bud, good report from the StarTron Central West region. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Daiquiri Deck hotspots. Jeffrey says inshore the nighttime tarpon and snook at New Pass and Longbow Pass on the late night incoming tide, free line live ladyfish, or a silver mullet for the good snook and tarpon action. And then if you're offshore fishing, you wanna go mangrove snapper fishing. The bite is in 110 feet of water, live pilchards and shrimp on hard bottom areas off of Anna Maria south down to Venice.
Rick, you know what makes me so happy? All over the state, we've had some reports tonight of kids' photos that are in fishing camps.
And you know our captains,
awesome.
Week in and week out, they're
Yeah.
on it. They really are on it, and I'm so grateful to have all the team that we have. It's
Me
so
too.
awesome.
And I'm happy to see that the kids are out there fishing. All right, between lobsters, scallops, redfish, and snook, the Discover Crystal River Northwest region has so much to offer. So, Hag, tell us where we can find all the things.
Lobster in my area, you're going to have to get out a little bit deeper. Most of our lobster are caught anywhere from 60 to 120 feet of water. The middle ground's a great place to go. A lot of people dive it for grouper when they're spearfishing, but our lobster are going to be out there, and they're generally a little bit bigger than the lobster you find down in the Keys and stuff. We also have slippery or bulldozer lobster, which can be caught in those same areas, and most of them are caught on ledges and reefs and wrecks out past 60 feet of water. What we do have a ton of is red snapper, and Captain Rob Davenport of Big Nasty Charters out of St. Pete reports the red snapper have been plentiful. A lot of these fish can be found right now in 50 to 180 feet of water on live bottom and ledges and bait stacks. Look for the bigger ones a little higher in the water column. Bottom rig with 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leader or a knocker rig, both work well. 6 to 8 aught hook, 6 to 8 ounces of lead. Squid's working best, and also those slow pitch jigging method has been working well too. So drop down those jig rods and you can catch them that way as well. Moving on inshore, Captain Lee Thomas out of Port St. Joe Bay reports steady redfish bite right now. They're holding on the deeper channel edges right now near grass, biting on live pinfish and pigfish. He's using a Carolina rig with a 2-aught circle hook, 24 inches, a 20-pound fluorocarbon leader, and a half-ounce egg sinker. Staying up in the Panhandle with Captain John Lane of JB Charters out of Apalachicola says his redfish bite. They've been moving around the flats, mainly biting on the top of the tide and the outgoing tide. The bite's been best around those deeper edges also, around the marshes, oyster bars, and edges of the channel on fresh shrimp. Moving down the coast a little bit, Captain Mario Costello of Tall Tale Charters out of Ozella Keys Marina reports a great redfish bite in his area right now. Mangrove Islands and Keys from Crystal River to Homosassa. He's working the Mangrove Islands that have sandy potholes adjacent to him. He's fishing the lower tides, and he's using both live shrimp and cut mullet on an 1/8 ounce jig head. The redfish have been pretty leader shy, so he's dropping down to 5 feet of 12 to 15 pound fluorocarbon leader. He says the water right now is super crystal clear. If you're using anything bigger than 15, it'll turn the bite off, so drop down your leader size when you're fishing in that clear water. Redfish right now in his area have been ranging anywhere from 20 to 30 inches. And I got a few photos from all 3 of our captains with some beautiful West Coast redfish.
Nice.
Pretty.
Nice.
Oh, another young people everywhere. I love this.
Yeah, man,
It's
there's a
great.
lot of young kids out fishing. All right, what else you got for us, Hag?
Our scallop season's still going strong right now. It's kind of our lobster season up here. It's in full swing right now. Limits are being caught a little deeper than usual. Water's a little warm right now, so get out a little bit deeper and looking at 4 to 7 foot of water. Remember to fly those dive flags and be on the lookout for fellow scallopers out there. When you're running your outboard, try to keep it away from everybody and have a good time and be safe out there. We had a little incident last week out there, so everybody be careful and watch where you're going.
All right, Hag, whoa, you went through your report. I got about a minute and a half to talk, so guess what, bub? Let's talk a little bit about scallop season. Certainly, people need to understand that they got to be 300 feet away from anybody with a dive flag. So, what I want to know is, as the season progresses, how do you adjust your scallop fishing, so to speak?
I try to get away from people when I'm scalloping because a lot of people try to go towards people when they're scalloping because they think they're doing better over there than they are where they're at. I try to get away from people and look for areas that aren't being picked as much, and you can generally limit out a lot quicker if you actually get away from the crowd. And the big thing is finding what depth they're at. And once you find what depth they're at, the water's so clean up here right now that you can look around pretty easily just by standing on the side of the boat and looking over the edge, or on the bow of the boat and looking over the edge and seeing the grass and how it changes. And once you find that depth they're in, we've got a solid, from Anclote all the way up past the Chaz of fertile scallop ground. So once you find that depth they're in, that's where they're going to be most of the way through the scallop grounds. So I try to get away from everybody is my biggest tip for everybody.
A cool tip that I learned from Terry from Discover Crystal River, she was telling me this past week at ICAST that when the water's clear, you don't have a lot of fresh water rushing out the rivers, the scallops actually come in a little closer. But I learned a trick the first time I went with you and Mario and Bree the first time. When you're swimming, if you swim into the tide, one, it slows you down, but number two, the grass is kind of being bent over like this, and it allows you to see underneath the grass. So keep that in. That's a kind of a cool little trick that I learned from Jeff and from Mario when we were up there the first time. You remember that, Hag?
That's a definitely great tip. If you swim into the current, that grass you're swimming at an angle where you can see down into the grass all the way to the bottom. If you swim opposite of it or side of it, you'll actually swim right over a bunch of scallops.
That's exactly
and not
right.
Be able to see them.
That was a good trick you taught me many, many years ago. Okay, bud, we appreciate your hard work this week. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Ozella Key Marina hotspots from the Northwest region. Jeff says that inshore, look for the snook along the beaches and the passes on the incoming and the outgoing tides using pinfish or sardines, free line on a 5/0 Eagle Claw circle hook. And then offshore, the mangrove snappas on all the high relief structure, and 20 to 60 feet of water used live shrimp or maybe small sardines, free lined or on a knocker rig. That's what's gonna work.
Did you say many, 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 many years ago?
Many,
you just
many,
gotta say
many.
it that many times. It was a while ago. You do get more tired swimming into the current like that, but that's okay. Scallops are worth it. All right,
That's
one
right.
of the best ways to support Florida's fisheries right now is with a Conserve Florida Fisheries license plate. For just $25, proceeds for the redfish tag support protecting and enhancing Florida's saltwater marine resources, habitat restoration, water quality, and coastal environmental education. Visit your local DMV or visit redfishtag.com.
Bree, how cool was it last week at ICAST in
Everything.
front of lots of people?
Yep.
We sold over 600 tickets just at the ICAST show for the Hughes boat that we gave away on Thursday, and it was so neat to hear the guy won from South Carolina, and just so neat to hear his excitement about winning new Hughes with a Yamaha 115 SHO.
He was very excited, and he didn't answer the first time, but we finally got him, right?
We did.
All right, we're exploring the depths and the shallows of the Sea Sucker Panhandle region coming right up, so get your scuba gear in check. But before we go, make sure you scan that QR code you see right there on your screen. It's an easy way to sign up for our live audience shows, and we just added another one for our shark show coming up and our last live audience of the season for our bass show. Plus, you can get connected with all of our Facebook and Instagram pages, as well as our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Island Lures. Tournament Tackle. The IGFA. Every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Real Legends. Available at bellsflorida.com. Dynapack. Your partner on the road. And Taco Marine. Troll the edge.
Today's Power Pole tip of the week is about using dual poles. Now guys, I love the fact that with dual poles, I can create total boat control. Now when I approach a dock, or if I approach a point or an oyster bar, everything is in the angle of my cast in most fishing conditions. So what I try to do is understand exactly the presentation that I want to make with my lure and set the boat up by so doing that. So what ends up happening is we can approach a dock, we can approach that oyster bar, and I'm going to put the boat so that I can compensate for the wind as well as the current. And dual poles allow me to do that. Most of the time, if you have a single pole, you're always going to drift down current or even downwind, or the wind might blow you across the current. So you don't have the total control that you have with duals. So keep that in mind, that with duals, you're going to have the total boat control, and that's today's Power Pole tip of the week. So what do you think, Bree? 2 poles or 1?
Oh, 2 for sure, always.
All right,
All right, well, we've got spiny and shovel nose slipper lobster options in the Sea Sucker Panhandle region. So, Pat, let's go deep and find those tails.
Yeah, Bree, I tell you what, the Panhandle region has spiny lobsters and shovel nose lobsters, but you are going to have to go deep to get them. They're mostly found on natural bottom ledges at 80 to 130 feet of water or deeper. The timber holes, the Nicky Bottom areas to the southwest of Destin, historically good lobster bottom, as is the hard bottom off the South Walton, and that South Walton bottom's a little bit shallower. Low shallow relief with undercuts are generally better than the high relief spots. The spinies are mostly going to be standing on the bottom under a ledge, while the shovel nose lobsters are often hanging upside down under the roofs of the ledge. So, get a good light. It goes a long way to finding those guys while they're up inside those holes. And I've never seen an undersized spiny lobster up here. Most of all of them are 3 pounds or plus, with many being in the 6 pounds or plus category. But with that being said, as far as table fare goes, many feel the smaller shovel nose are better eating. There's a picture sent in by Captain Theo Tyson on the Sea Cobra dive boat out of Destin. He's happily showing off a nice little spiny lobster.
Nice. That is nice.
Yeah, supper time. But speaking of supper, red snappers. Summer recreational red snapper season is closing soon, but the red snapper fishing remains consistent. The closer, more precious spots, you may need to lighten up your leader and use less lead, but even the public spots still have some snappers on them. Live bait the snappers with cigar minnows, pilchards, and even shrimp, or chum them up with cut minnows, pogies, or Boston mackerel. And there's a photo I got from Captain Cliff Atwell. Very happy client holding up a 20-pound snapper and showing off a nice rack of red and vermilion snappers behind him. So that's a nice rack of red fish right there. And then moving up inshore, the tarpon fishing is beginning to slow down, but still enough fish around to make it happen. The problem has been water clarity. All the rains and the west winds have really changed our coastal waters. It's been dirty in places. But if you find a section of clean water and camp, you should see some fish. I'm using 50-pound fluorocarbon for the bite leader, 7-aught circle hooks, and Elwise and cigar minnows for baits. The groups of fish are getting smaller, but the size of the fish are definitely getting bigger, with some valid 150, pound class fish coming through our area right now. And then finally, inshore, the bay mangrove snapper fish has been real consistent. It's all about the bait, the presentation, and the location. Small live baits like pilchards, menhaden, if you can find them, baby little pinfish are great baits. Secondly, light leaders, small hooks, and light weights go a long way towards getting the bite. And as far as location, you're going to find those bay snappers around bridge pilings, junk piles, and the bigger ones are definitely coming from the deeper water in the bay.
So, Pat, I got a couple questions for you. One, did you think your tarpon season, you say it's coming to an end, did you think your tarpon season was really early this year, like the rest of the state?
Yeah, Rick, it started early, probably 2.5 weeks early, and it's winding down right now, but hopefully it's not over.
All right. The other question I have for you, mentioned mangrove snappers in the bay. When you guys are fishing for those mangrove snappers and you get that bite, whether it's on cut bait or it's on a live bait, how do you like to, so to speak, hook them or set the hook?
I mean, we're using circle hooks, Rick, so there's no setting the hook to it. It's a matter of letting them eat the bait and then, slowly coming tight with them.
Are you a certain way when you open the spool of, you like to drop back to them and let it run for a second, or how do you just lock it up?
I typically fish with the rod tip to the side. I feel the bite, I just drop the rod tip back to them. So I don't really free spool it. I just give them the drop with the rod tip.
All right, there you go, guys. There's the tip from the expert up at the Blue Water Outrigger Hotspot Panhandle region. So Pat says that inshore, you want to go to Triple Tails in Indian Pass, still hot as the weather, and you're going to find them floating under some structure or on structure. Fish them with baits under a cork, And then offshore, the Oskaloosa Fad is in some green water, but guess what? The yellowfins and the blackfins are there anyway. Free line live baits and throw poppers on big spinning rods to catch those tunas.
Oskaloosa.
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 Okay, whatever, right? It's a Rickism for you.
I get a tongue tied.
I know, it's all right. All right, we're chomping at the bit, ready for lobster season right around the corner, and cannot wait to see the lobster dinners everyone prepares. But stay with us a little longer, and we will tell you what we're reeling in next week, along how we like to prepare our lobsters when we catch them. I said we.
You
We'll be
catching
back.
some for me?
Yeah.
Nice.
Okie dokie. Next week we are talking kingfish, so make sure to tune in. We've been seeing a lot of king showing up in the guys' report, so Rick, once again, you're just on top of it.
Well,
I'll bring
every
my
once in a
kingfish
while
dip.
we
know-
pick the
we
right
know the
species
fish.
for the right time of year. What do you think? Dave?
Yes, we do. Well, this was
The big ones are on the beach now.
Yes, they are. And lobster's coming up next week. I'm so excited. This was such a cool show.
Yes.
So how do you like your lobster prepared, Dave, real quick?
Poached in butter.
Poached in butter. I like mine in a
Cook 'em
lobster
in butter.
hoagie roll, like a lobster
I like the
salad.
Jimbo Thomas method where you cut the tail up in little pieces and then you
Ooh.
fry them and it become like
Ooh.
lobster
Lobster
nuggets.
Yum!
nuggets.
Well, before we go, happy birthday to Vince, our director.
Director.
And we'll see you guys next
Happy
week.
birthday, Vinny.
Bye.